Welcome back to Relationship Growth. This episode came to me because I've been seeing a theme with many of my clients. They're doing everything right on paper, but emotionally they feel disconnected from their partner. They're showing up, they're productive, they're dependable, but inside they're overwhelmed, anxious, and numb. And this is what I call high-functioning survival. Just like someone is a high-functioning alcoholic, meaning they clearly have a problem with alcohol. Alcohol isn't doing anything good for their life, but they're still able to check the boxes. When we're in high-functioning survival, it's when your nervous system is stuck in a state of activation, but you learned how to operate through it. Maybe you look calm, but your body's bracing for impact. And in relationships, that state of constant activation quietly erodes connection, intimacy, and peace. So if you've ever felt distant from your partner, like you've struggled to relax, even when you're in an environment where you should be able to, maybe you're sitting on the sofa next to them at night or lying in bed with them, and you're finding yourself in a more of a controlling state than trying to connect, this episode is for you. Now, before we dive in, I created something special. My free guide, Get Out of the Roommate Rut. The first 50 people to download it get it completely free. You can do that by commenting the word pumpkin on any of my Instagram posts or find the link in the show notes. So what is high-functioning survival? High-functioning survival means your body is operating from a survival state, but you've become so good at it, you don't even realize that you're stuck there. Like, this is your baseline. It feels normal to you. Like I said, it's like being a high-functioning alcoholic. You appear fine, capable, even thriving on the surface, but internally, you're in a constant state of tension and overwhelm. So here are some things you may notice if you're living in this high-functioning survival state. You might be hyper alert. So you're constantly scanning your environment. You're on edge. I had a client describe this to me once as he would be making a cup of coffee, and then someone would say his name and he would whip his head around like it was an emergency, like it was like DEFCON 3, like something was wrong, when in reality, it was just his kid saying his name. He was just hearing dad or his name from his wife. And so his reaction to what happened was so much bigger than what happened, just hearing his name. So you might also notice that closeness feels unsafe. And maybe you find yourself withholding affection from your spouse, from your partner. You plan and control rather than communicate. So when you start to feel that stress and overwhelm, you just lean on being more and more controlling instead of collaborative and communicating with the other person. You might feel cold and irritable even when you're craving peace and connection with your partner, and you struggle to rest even when it's completely safe. So you're lying in bed at night, time for you to get to really downshift in your nervous system to get some rest, and you still feel on edge. Maybe there's tension in your chest, like you just can't seem to calm down. So physically, this can look like chronic tension, tightness, anxiety, experiencing GI issues, inflammation. It can also manifest as autoimmune conditions, headaches. And emotionally, again, it shows up as numbness, irritability, and difficulty connecting, even sexually. You may have a hard time with intimacy with your person. So how does this impact relationships? Well, when your body's in survival, you can't access deep connection. I once worked with a firefighter who was constantly in high-stress situations. When he came home, his body didn't know how to shift gears. He would feel really numb and he would go withdraw. He'd go play video games to try to numb out everything he had taken in that day. And it created a lot of tension in his relationship because his spouse felt unseen, unheard, lonely, disconnected. So even though there was love there, this is what happens when survival becomes your baseline. You lose access to the softness, presence, and intimacy that your relationship needs, that you crave with the person and the other person craves with you. So when we start to see this go on in our relationships, when we start to see that maybe I'm effective, maybe I'm getting everything done on my checklist, I'm bringing home the paycheck, I'm taking care of the kids, but you're not able to connect with the person you're married to, you're not able to connect with the person you're in a long-term relationship with, that's when the alarm bells should go off, that we need to address this on a nervous system level. So if you're realizing that this may be happening in your relationship, go ahead and grab my guide, Get Out of the Roommate Rut. because this will help you start to warm up the connection between you and your spouse, between you and your partner, so that you want to do the nervous system work. You want to go deeper and figure out what is causing me to be constantly activated. So let's talk about what you can start doing right now. If this sounds like you're like, I think I'm living in a high functioning survival state. I relate to feeling this anxiety, this tension, to not being able to calm down. So let's start by bringing your body back into presence. We're going to do a quick orienting exercise. If you're listening to this, as long as you're not driving, do it along with me. I just want you to take a breath. And now look around whatever space you are in. And I want you to name 5 things that you see, whatever your eyes are drawn to. 5 things that you see. And you can pause this podcast to do so. And now I want you to name 4 things that you hear. Are there noises in the distance? Maybe they're in the same room. I just heard my dog go get on the sofa. And now I want you to name 3 things you can touch, that you can feel. And then 2 things that you can smell. And maybe even 1 thing that you can taste. And after you do this practice, again, feel free to pause in between the prompts. I want you to notice how you feel in your body. Maybe even notice how your feet feel when you notice the floor beneath them. When we orient, we come into presence. We ground, we come into the present moment. We give our nervous system access to safety, access to what we call ventral vagal connection. And that is where intimacy is built. That is where connection grows. So this simple practice helps your nervous system shift out of high alert and back into connection. And in my work with clients, we build your capacity to stay in safety, not just intellectually, not just in your mind. We're not just talking mindset work here, but somatically in your body, so you feel that downshift. And then we explore what's causing the activation, and we teach the body how to trust again, so connection becomes possible. Because I want you to be able to build that deep intimacy with your partner. I want you to be able to connect deeply when you come home from work, or when you have time off, or when you get to rest at the end of the day and not be in that state of hyper arousal. So when your nervous system is stuck in activation, love can't fully land. You can't feel close to your partner when your body is braced for danger. Connection begins with safety, and safety begins in your body, not in your mind. So if you're ready to start rebuilding connection from the inside out, start with downloading the Get Out of the Roommate Rut Guide. That will give you some tools to come into presence and simple tools to start warming up the connection with your partner. And if you're ready for some deeper work to see, where is this activation coming from? Why am I feeling this anxiety in the first place? Email me, support@lillyrachels.com. It will be in the show notes. I would love to help you. I would love to work with your nervous system and get you back to a place where your relationship can grow and you can experience deep love and connection again.
Thank you for listening to Relationship Growth. If you enjoyed this episode and you're a fan of the show, please subscribe and leave us a review. If you'd like to connect, you can join me over on Substack or follow me on Instagram @Lilly Rachels. Let's build love that grows.